Hello everyone, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I'm going to do a fast and loose watercolor painting, focusing on a triad of Payne's Gray, Raw Sienna, and Burnt Sienna. So in front of me I have a quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua. It is 100% cotton, 140 pound cold press. I'm just taking a large hake brush and passing water over it. This is going to get it nice and saturated and allows me to paint wet and wet. It also stretches the the paper for me. Okay, so we have that going. I'm going to grab my medium hake brush. This is the Ranson Pro Art Cheap Joe Art Supply hake brush as well. I've used this one for about 2 or 3 years now, so it's really well worn and stiff. It gets a lot of good texture from it, though it's starting to shed at this point because it's so old and worn. Alright, so let's just jump right into it. The paints that I'm using are Da Vinci brand. I'm going to grab some Raw Sienna. I'm going to go wet and wet. Just kind of play around with the sky. I'm going to make an imaginary scene. And like I said, the main focus is just on the kind of triad of those 3 colors. As the paper soaks up water, it buckles, so I just press it down, and that helps stretch it. We'll see what kind of composition I can come up with for this. I'll wash my brush off as much as I can, grab some more water, and I'm going to grab ultramarine. Nope, not ultramarine. I don't know. Nope, I'm using Payne's Gray on this painting. Usually my go-to is the Raw Sienna and ultramarine in the sky, and just that force of habit almost let that happen. So we're grabbing Payne's Gray. Now Payne's Gray, you really want to be aware of how it dries. Payne's Gray is named after a painter who created this gray from a combination of 3 colors, kind of a neutral from 3 pigments. Then a lot of brands took on Payne's Gray and they create it using just a black and a blue mixed together. And like I said, you have to be careful with how it dries because it will dry lighter than how you painted it in. I think we'll do a water's edge right here. Then I'll grab my Burnt Sienna. And I'll feed this into where I'll have some land. All right, see if there's anything I want to do with the sky at this point. Nope, accidentally grabbed a little bit of phthalo green on the brush. So I'm trying to remain super true to the original 3 colors, so I'm wiping everything off. Okay, looking at the sky, I'll grab a little bit more Raw Sienna. Since I'm just using these 3 colors, I kind of want to play around a little bit more. I do want to make the video pretty quick for you guys, so that it's just a kind of straight and to the point. Now let's take a thicker mixture of raw sienna, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to place out my horizon line. And we'll say these are distant trees in the background. I'm going to feed Payne's gray into that. I'm trying to get a variety of patterns as I go from left to right. Flattening my paper, and then on top of that I'll feed in some burnt umber. So I'm just using it as so my approach for this combination and my thought process for this is use burnt umber for warmer colors that I want to pop closer to the foreground. Use the Payne's gray for darks, but like I said, be wary of how it dries. And the raw sienna kind of ties everything together as just like a uniform tone in the background. I'm not sure if you would say that it's cooler in value, meaning that it recedes compared to the raw sienna, but that's how I'm kind of envisioning it. I'm taking that Payne's gray along the edge of that water, and I'll only go a little bit back into it, not into the whole picture plane, to kind of let the darker values push forward. I haven't done any dry off. We're probably only like 8 minutes into painting this. And you can pass more along that background if we want something a little bit more solid. But what I'm going to do is pause and dry, and I want you to see and pay attention to how much of a difference it makes as it dries off. So you see where it is now. I'm going to pause it and we'll dry. So hopefully I just paused and dried, that you would see how everything lightened up significantly as it dried. That's that tonal shift that I was mentioning. That's very prevalent with Payne's gray. So I'm taking a number 4 rigger, and now I'm painting over this dried painting. And this is a mixture of the burnt sienna and the Payne's gray. Kind of just using it as a dark. And what I'm going to do is just play around and put some kind of tree foliage, trunks, branch elements. And you'll see that painting on top of that now dried background, the wet and wet gave us a nice soft effect, and we now get a contrast whenever we kind of dry brush over it. This is the hake brush, using the same mixture I used for that the trunks to put foliage in. And just notice how it sits in reference to the rest of the background, how it kind of pushes forward with that crisper texture. I can feed some raw sienna into this, because as I put it in, these areas become wet, and I could feed in and I can kind of diffuse that value throughout. I could grab a little bit pure burnt umber, sorry, Payne's gray. I took a 3-hour nap before this, and last night I slept 10 hours. Last week, even though we're on spring break from work, we had went and hosted and ran USA Powerlifting Collegiate Nationals. We went and set up on a Wednesday, and we didn't get back until, Sunday night. And it was a almost 600-person event with lifting on different days and all that, with social distancing, COVID guidelines and all that, and everybody's wearing masks. But I'm still just recovering from that in a just running around nonstop at times mindset. Okay, this is a mixture of the Paynes Gray and the Burnt Sienna. So it's a little bit darker here, a little bit less water in the mixture. I will branch off. I'm going to put a gap in that branch right there so that I could put foliage between those. Kind of just add a little bit more depth and dimension and aspect to it. Mixture of Paynes Gray and my Burnt Sienna. You can see how this mixture is darker in comparison to the more watered down one we had done. So it's kind of pushing more forward in the picture plane. And I'm just painting some dark around it to help it sit, and it makes the tree seem like it's not floating in air. You gotta help that tree get grounded. If you want, you can grab a #1 rigger, but this one is meant as, like I said, a quick demonstration exploration. And the #1 rigger, I find for me, it's easier for me to get the thinner lines for the kind of smaller branches. Some people have very light hands and would be capable of probably getting that thin line out of the #4 rigger. So I will, I'm going to put one more tree somewhere in this region, but I'll start wrapping up the video. With these paintings, with these tutorials, you are always more than welcome to follow along. When you follow along, you are more than welcome to sign your name to that painting that you do. And if somebody ever says, hey, I'd like to buy that painting from you, you have my express permission to sell said painting. So if you follow along from this, you are welcome to sell that painting. I want you guys to be successful. Art supplies are expensive, and it really is encouraging when artwork is sold. So also, if you do sell something from one of these videos, I would love to see your results. Please send it to me on like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. There's a whole bunch of links down below, because I'd really like to see your results. Also, of course, if you ever have any questions and comments, please feel free to leave those down below. I'll always try to address everything that people leave. And if there's anything you ever want me to try to paint, I'll try my best. I also have a link to my Patreon down below if you want to support this channel. That helps with supplies and whatnot. And I do have some exclusive content on there. I'm going to pause the camera, dry it off, put a mat over it, and we'll be done. Oh, and liking and subscribing the YouTube page helps as well. So let me dry this off and put a mat over it. Okay, here's the final results underneath a mat. I I am going to get this uploaded and take a nap. We'll go back to sleep for the night. All right, y'all have a great day. Take care.